Hi all, I thought today we'd talk about MOT and tax exemption vehicles and the 40-year rule. So, a vehicle could be made exempt from MOTs 40 years after the manufacture or registration date, depending on the submitted documentation. So, if you've got a dating certificate with a manufacturing date, you can use that. If you've got a logbook, use the registration date. You can ask the DVLA to alter the registration date to the manufacturing date if you so wish to save a few months, but it is quite a drawn out process. There are exemptions to the 40-year rule. So if a vehicle has been substantially changed, this is differently applied to cars and motorbikes, and it is a self-declaration. So substantially changed on a motorbike is if it's a Q plate, whereby the 40-year rule applies to the date from when the registration is applied. So when it was made a Q plate. Whether the vehicle is identified as a kit built up of parts or is defined as a built-up classic. Now, built-up classic is a classic that's been had reproduced parts or new parts added to it, but there is a get-out clause for that, and that is if a part is no longer available, and let's face it, parts for 10-year-old cars are no longer available, never mind 40-year-old cars and motorbikes. You can say that you can't get hold of that part anymore, so you've had to use a new or reproduced part, and that is allowed. For cars, substantially changed is defined as alterations to the type of method of suspension or steering, either upgrading to power steering. Now, you can get away with saying you've made changes to make it more safer. So you can change from drum discs to drum brakes to disc brakes, or you can make it more environmentally friendly, maybe changing from carbs to fuel injection, which uses less fuel and could be more environmentally friendly. But if it's a comfort thing like power steering, it will be classed as substantially changed. ABS is a different story because obviously that improves things, makes more efficient, and that is allowed. So again, given a Q registration, and the rules apply the same as motorbikes, it's from the date of the Q registration. A kit car assembled from components from different makes and models. Reconstructed classic using new or replica parts if original parts are available, and the caveat still exists where if no parts are available, you can use replica or newly made parts. And a kit conversion which changes the appearance of a vehicle. So things that are not defined as substantially changed are chassis replacements, would you believe, and monocoque replacements of the same pattern and type, engines of the same layout, i.e. 4 cylinders, and doesn't depend on the size. So you could change a 4-cylinder 1500 to a 4-cylinder 1800, and it would be classed as not substantially changed. But if you change from a 4-cylinder to a 6-cylinder, that could be classed as substantially changed. So as I said, increasing the size of the engine is not classed as, or decreasing, it's not classed as substantially changed. Changes made to preserve the vehicle or parts that are not available. As I said before, that's a good caveat to try and avoid being classed as a reconstructed classic. Changes available when the vehicle was in production and up to 10 years after production of the type of vehicle ended. So if you've got a vehicle that had upgrades to it over its life cycle, you could apply those changes to your vehicle. Changes to improve efficiency, safety, or environmental performance, i.e., more efficient brakes, moving from carbs to injection, that kind of thing. And also changes to commercial vehicles, which I'm not covering in this video. So that is MOT exemption, and you would use a V112 form from the government to apply for that. Exemptions to vehicle tax. So if your vehicle is manufacture date or registration date, again, dependent on the documentation that you've submitted to make the change, and the registration date is on or before the 8th of January. And if we class when I made this sort of video, so we're talking 2023. So if your vehicle is made before the 8th of January 1983, you could apply for tax exemption this year. If it's made, then you can apply in April. If it's made after the 8th of January, you're going to have to wait till next year. It's a bit of a strange one, and it catches a lot of people out, but that's how it is. MOTs are different. MOTs are based on the manufacture date or the registration date 40 years. Okay? So you could have a vehicle that is MOT exempt but not tax exempt. But normally the post office are a bit unhappy about you doing this. Normally they like you to do the tax and MOT exemption at the same time. So how to apply? Take your logbook to the post office and download a V112 form from the internet. Fill the V112 form out, which is just fill the reg number, the reason for the exemption, which is age, historical vehicle, and sign it. Now, like I say, normally people do this when they're also taxing the vehicle as well. So you're doing tax and MOT at the same time. You should not need to pay for tax and claim it back. You are making it tax exempt, and some post offices have in the past have said that you need to pay the tax and claim it back. That is not true at all. If you have a post office that says that, you can argue the toss, or even just walk away and go to another post office that knows better. So like I said before, do not pay the tax and claim it back. It's within your right just to make the vehicle tax exempt. So the post office person will take your V112 form and your logbook, stamp the V112 form, give it back to you as a document. So if you are using your vehicle while your V5 is away, getting made historic, you've got that as evidence. So they will stamp your logbook and send it back to the DVLA. From that moment, your vehicle is tax and MOT exempt, and you can go home, jump in that vehicle, and use it right away. For your logbook to come back, it usually takes 2 or 3 weeks for the DVLA to send it back out, and you'll notice when you receive your logbook that the tax status is historic. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't need to tax that vehicle every year. Every year you'll get a letter through that says you need to tax that vehicle. So you just go online, tax it, and it costs nothing. Or you can sell it if you wish, but I really don't understand what the reason for that is, apart from if you don't want to have it insured at the same time. So you can use that vehicle as soon as you go to the post office, get everything stamped, then send the form. They send the form away, and every year you'll have to re-tax that vehicle, and it costs nothing. Okay, so I hope that covers everything. One thing I have noticed on the channel is 96% of people aren't subscribing. If you could subscribe, that would be great, because it helps the channel, it gets the channel out there. Also, if you can like the channel as well, that's great as well. That again, it makes the YouTube algorithms suggest the channel to other people to use when they're looking for similar sort of searches. that would be great. It'll help me, help the channel. And if you've got any comments, any questions on this, quite happy to go through them. Just post comments in the comment section, and also I'll post a link for the V1124 from the DVLA. Right, okay, that's it. Like I say, any comments, likes, subscriptions, you know what to do. Cheers all.